Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. I am G2. For the people that's unaware of what this broadcast is, first and foremost, I would like to say hello to you. And secondly, let me tell you, this broadcast is me talking about everything that happened in the world of professional wrestling, whether it comes from the world of WWE, AEW, or TNA. I talk to you guys about everything that happened on screen that you saw this week. And with this week being, well, WWE's go-home shows for Raw and SmackDown leading up into the Royal Rumble, we got some things to cover. AEW, we didn't get a lot of good television from AEW, at least from my vantage point, but I'm going to break that down too. In TNA, it was still going to be TNA. We're getting TNA still mixing it up with NXT stars because of their deal that they have with WWE now. So we had a little bit of that on TNA this week. But again, I'll break all that stuff down in this week's episode of the Wrestling Highlights of the Week. So without further ado, let me just get the bad out of the way. AEW. And I don't want to say bad so much because AEW already catches a lot of flack from a lot of people online. But I will say this episode of Dynamite wasn't the very best that it could be. I mean, you had Brian Cage versus Will Ospreay to start the show off. Good match, but as I said, 2 weeks ago when it was Brian Cage versus Kenny Omega, this is not the same Brian Cage of when he debuted in AEW, I want to say in 2020 during the pandemic. This isn't the Brian Cage when he was in TNA before he came into AEW. This is Brian Cage where he's used as a guy to just be thrown into a match for someone to go against a member of the Don Callis family. Brian Cage is not a important player. He's just used as a tool to be like the little muscled up dude until you get to like the Kyle Fletchers and the Takeshita of the Don Callis family. And with Kenny Omega and Ospreay kind of having a match against Takeshita and Fletcher at Grand Slam Australia, that's what Brian Cage was here for. All in all, Ospreay would defeat Brian Cage after the match was over. Same rinse and repeat stuff that they do with the Don Callis family. Ospreay would get attacked by Cage and Archer. Kenny Omega will come out to make the save with a chair. And then you have Takeshita and Fletcher come out to attack Ospreay and Omega. And again, it's the same rinse and repeat. Fletcher and Takeshita will hit pile drivers, but Fletcher will hit his tombstone pile driver on Ospreay, while Takeshita will hit his cradle reverse Yoshi tonic on Omega. So again, this is just build up to their match in Australia, the Grand Slam one, and again, it was a nice match to start the show off, but I just see Brian Cage not being the same guy as he was when he came into AEW. I would love for him to get back to that. I would love for him to give him some type of spark for him to be that, but it is what it is. But we're still on the building blocks for Will Ospreay and Omega going against Fletcher and Takeshita at Grand Slam Australia. We did have a backstage segment with Hangman Page. Hangman Page was trying to find Swerve. And I have a reason for that, but I'm going to break this. But I want us to get to this first. He tries to find Swerve. He goes to his locker room. He doesn't see him. He walks away. And Renee Paquette's trying to get an interview from him, but he doesn't pay her no mind. And then he bumps into MJF. Now, MJF and Adam Page, they had a little stare down moment last week. And they're continuing up again this week. So this is telling you right there that we're going to get something between Hangman and MJF somewhere soon, because it's got to be soon, because you can't just lay these breadcrumbs right here and just for nothing if you're going to do this 2 or 3 months down the line. No, I have a feeling we're going to get to this sooner rather than later. And Hangman would just look at MJF and just look at Hangman, and Hangman would just walk away. MJF, he isn't feeling it. He kind of talks out the side of his mouth a little bit, but then he gets to talking to Renee Paquette, and he gets to talking about Jeff Jarrett, the man that he's kind of embroiled in this little thing with right now. MJF would tell Renee Paquette about Jeff Jarrett's upcoming match with Claudio and how he mentioned to Jeff Jarrett a couple weeks ago that you need to make this deal with me. You should have made the deal with me. The deal was that MJF would help Jeff Jarrett to become AEW World Champion, and the only thing Jeff Jarrett had to do when he becomes World Champ is to give MJF the first shot. And since Jeff Jarrett turned it down, he's going to learn that he should have made a deal with the devil instead of going against the devil. So we get to the match with Claudio and Jeff Jarrett. Claudio would defeat Jeff Jarrett by pinfall thanks to help from the Death Riders. Wheeler Yuta would block the referee, get on the apron, distract the referee. And this allowed Jon Moxley to come in when Jeff Jarrett was going to hit the stroke on Claudio, and Moxley would hit the paradigm shift on Jeff Jarrett, and then Claudio would hit 2 neutralizer pile drivers on Jeff Jarrett to get the win. After the match was over, MJF would come down. MJF would wait until Jeff got to his feet, and he would psych him out, thinking that he's about to give him a monologue, but he would say a couple words, but then he would just run over, bash him in the head with his fist that he had the Dynamite diamond ring on, and leave Jeff Jarrett laying right there. So MJF's business with Jeff Jarrett isn't done yet. Hopefully it will be sometime soon, because I would rather see Hangman deal with MJF than MJF dealing with his Jeff Jarrett business, if Jeff Jarrett isn't going to win the world title. And again, with Jeff Jarrett being this last year in wrestling, I don't think that's going to happen. So, I mean, it's time to wrap that up. Now, going back to Hangman here, Hangman, I have a feeling that he's trying to find Swerve because he wants to try to get back to his old Hangman ways. The old Hangman before he got into this deep, dark path that he's been trailing on for the last, I don't know, about a year and a half maybe. And Swerve was the beginning of that walking down the path for him. So I think with him trying to find Swerve, I think he's trying to revert back to his old self. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they pull that off, because again, he has to deal with MJF. MJF was, I want to say, the first guy to really poke at Hangman, because when AEW was built, Hangman was the guy that AEW was built around. You saw it if you watch AEW in 2019 when they had the press conference. They kind of laid it out that Hangman is like the crown jewel for AEW. And when MJF came in, we all knew him as a young, brash prick that was Cody's friend. And we kind of knew that he was going to play a big role in AEW. And you saw it in the Battle Royal to determine who was going to be the first challenger or the first competitor for the first ever AEW World Championship match. It came down to Hangman and MJF, I believe. And Hangman threw out MJF. And ever since then, those two have been having some type of beef that would pop in and pop out. And I think this year we might really get to the MJF and Hangman business the way that we need to, since we never really gotten that since AEW has started with having television and pay-per-views. But again, I think time will tell with that. But that's where I think we should be going. Again, let MJF and Jeff Jarrett handle their business. Let them take care of that. But the Hangman and MJF business, it needs to come to a head. And again, I say we're going to have it, I'll say probably next month, because I think that whoever is running AEW sees the fanfare and everybody can see that people aren't rock with this MJF and Jeff Jarrett business. So I think they're going to wrap that up sometime quickly, if I'm going to be honest. You had Ricochet going against AR Fox. Ricochet would defeat AR Fox. Solid match between the two. After the match was over, Swerve would attack Ricochet, beat him up. He was going to hit the Swerve Stomp on him, but Ricochet would grab AR Fox, hold him hostage while holding scissors up to his neck. Swerve would let Ricochet leave out of the ring and go about his business. And this was the setup for their upcoming match next week on Dynamite as well. We will get a vignette of the Guns, Colton Gunn and Austin Gunn. They're coming back to AEW soon. They've been out with injury for some time. Same thing with Juice Robinson. Juice, he's been out since the Continental Classic kind of started. He only had one match in that, but after that, he's been out for recovery. With the Guns coming back, I hope they get back with Jay White. I don't want to see them come back and they're just two dudes as a tag team. No, put them back with Jay White. Let them be the Bang Bang Gang or Bullet Club Gold. I don't care how you want to pronounce that team. Put them back with them because that made Jay White something. That made the Guns something. They benefited from one another. So again, that's what I'm hoping for since the Guns are coming back. Speaking of Jay White, we had Jay White going against Wheeler Yuta. Okay. Jay White defeated Wheeler Yuta. Cool. Main event, we had the TBS title being defended. Mercedes Moné will go against Yuka Sakazaki. They had a solid main event for the TBS Championship. Mercedes Moné would retain said title. I don't think anybody thought that title was going to go off from Mercedes. And so Mercedes is still your TBS champion. Another thing that I got to say about this, Mercedes, she needs a challenger. They're already trying to build up Harley Cameron to be the challenger for the TBS title at the Grand Slam event in Australia. So you will have not only Toni Storm vying for an AEW World title against Mariah May, you have another Australian vying for a title in AEW with Harley going after the TBS title. Here's my thing. Mercedes, she's a great wrestler. I understand you want to put her, or I'm not going to say put her, but you should be putting her. I understand you want to keep her like a specialty thing. Okay, I understand that. However, you can't do that. The TBS Championship, I feel, since its debut, has been like a weighted belt onto whoever's holding it. Meaning as, when you win the TBS title, you're going to be synced with not doing nothing. Because you look at Jade Cargill when she won the TBS Championship. Yes, it was good for Jade to hold the TBS Championship. Yes, it was good for her to be the inaugural TBS champion because she had the streak and everything going for her. That was great. However, once she won that title, you'll see her on television periodically, and more than likely it was more segments than anything to set up for her to have a match on the pay-per-views. That's what you remember out of that Jade reign. Also with her being the longest reigning TBS champion all time at AEW. But again, when you look at her reign like legitimately, because now you can do that on Max, I guarantee you people are going to say Jade's reign was okay. So you had that. Chris Statlander, she beats Jade. So now you got Chris holding the title. Chris had a fairly, I'm going to say short-ish type reign. Even though she was on television defending the TBS Championship, she wasn't in no type of storyline-wise to really give the title something for it, right? So Chris had that, and then she drops it. She drops it to Julia Hart. Julia Hart, who's with the House of Black at the time, who's doing great character work, starting to come into her own. It felt like, okay, giving her the TBS Championship will be the right move for her. So she wins it. Then what do? We know Mercedes is coming in, and we know off top, we start putting Willow up against Julia, and we know that Mercedes is going to have the first shot at the TBS Championship. So what do? We have Willow win the title off of Julia Hart. Willow, who is, I feel, AEW's Bayley circa NXT early days, because everybody loves Willow Nightingale. She's always smiling, being a happy person on there. She wins the title off of Julia Hart. And what do? Next pay-per-view, you had Mercedes going against Willow. And this is where we land now. TBS champion Mercedes Moné, and she hasn't had any real solid feuds that really stand out for that TBS championship. We need to beef up that championship. We need to beef up the rivalries for Mercedes. Something needs to come about for that. Okay? So I hoping that after Grand Slam, whether they give Harley the title or they keep it on Mercedes, after Grand Slam, they need to start ramping it up with the TBS Championship reigns of whoever's holding it. Start giving them some substance. Now, speaking of the World Championship for the women's division, because I want to just get this out the way. Toni Storm on Collision, she would reveal to everyone that she has been playing a role of Timeless Toni Storm. Timeless Toni Storm is back. She was never had any type of amnesia. It was always Timeless Toni Storm playing this role here. So Mariah May at Australia will be going against Timeless Toni Storm, not the amnesia baited rookie version of Toni Storm that we have been seeing on television for the last month and a half. And I just want to say this. I thought that's what was going down. I thought Timeless Toni Storm was playing a character. I thought that she was playing a character of the rookie Toni Storm because certain things just didn't click with me when I saw this amnesia-riddled rookie of Toni Storm. What didn't click with me was whenever she threw up the rocker sign, the hand logo. Because if you watch Toni Storm's stuff before she got into AEW, when she was in WWE, doing WWE NXT UK, and even the stuff that she was doing on the indies, you saw that she wasn't throwing up the rocker sign the way that she was throwing it up in AEW with this amnesia character thing. That kind of sent me right there like, okay, something's not right here. And then the second thing that really catapulted it for me was whenever you saw Toni Storm, the amnesia-riddled one, having a backstage segment with Deonna Purrazzo, and she didn't remember Deonna. I found that confusing. Well, I found that as another strike to my thought process of saying, yeah, this is Timeless playing a character, because you got to remember Toni Storm and Deonna Purrazzo, they go way back and they have tattoos like with each other. So even if you forgot certain things, your body and your mind will at least be able to show you things and you'll be able to start piecing things together. And that's what made me realize, like, oh yeah, this is Timeless playing a character of Toni. So whenever we got the reveal on Collision, I was like, okay, I was right. And I'm glad that they went that route. So again, Timeless Toni Storm revealed to just be playing the character. So Timeless Toni will be going against Mariah May at Grand Slam Australia for the AEW Women's Championship. So there you go there. Anything else I want to talk about for AEW Dynamite this week? Nope, not really. Again, what I told you was what all happened on the show, and I'm just giving my thoughts on it. But if you look at AEW Dynamite this week, it was really nothing to really talk about except for just saying this needs to go and this needs to progress. That's it. But as a show in general of enjoyment, it was really a sleeper show, if I'm going to be honest. But again, that's just me being my opinion on that. Anywho, that's AEW Wrestling Highlights for the week here. And now let's move over to TNA. TNA, I will collide it with WWE's NXT because, again, they have a relationship with one another. And on TNA, you saw some NXT wrestlers pop up on there for TNA this week. You had Cora Jade and Wesley pop up there. Cora Jade, she got 1-1. On NXT this week, you saw her and Roxanne going against the team of Bayley and Julia. And Cora Jade, she would eat the pin from Bayley, getting the win over her on NXT. While on TNA, she would defeat a woman named Hyena, and she would get a win. And Cora Jade's over there on TNA. She's trying to go after Marsha Slamovich for the TNA Knockouts Championship. After the match was over, you saw Cora attack Hyena, and then that's when you saw Xia Brookside come out. Xia and Cora, they had a little tiff backstage in TNA. She comes out to check up on Hyena, and then that's when Cora would attack her, and that's when Marsha would come down. So Cora Jade, she looks like, she's going after the TNA Knockouts Championship, and it seems like her plan is working because she does got the eye of Masha Slamovich here. So there you go. Wesley, he is 2-0 this week in wrestling. On NXT, he went against Trick Williams, and Trick Williams, he would disqualify himself because Trick Williams would not get off of Wes in the corner. The referee would try to pull Trick off of Wes, but then Trick would just throw the referee off of him, and the referee would call for the bell. That's when you saw Tyson and Tyreek. Those are the two guys that are with Wesley, come down to try to attack Trick, but Trick would handle them. But there you go. So that's the one win that Wes would get on NXT because of Trick's own attitude. And on TNA, Wesley went against Ace Austin. And again, thanks to interference from Tyreek and Tyson, you saw Wesley get the win over Ace Austin by hitting the cardiac kick on Ace Austin to get the win there. So Wesley is 2-0 this week. On TNA, though, Wesley does explain why he is constantly ruining the Rascals' chances of winning those NXT tag titles. And he's doing that for two reasons. One, he wants the Rascals, Trey Miguel, and Zachary Wentz to stay away from those NXT tag titles because Wesley, has promised Tyreek and Tyson that they are going to go to the promised land and become NXT tag champions. So any tag team, more specifically the Rascals, that tries to go after those tag titles, he is going to block them and move them out of the way. That's one of the reasons why he stopped the Rascals from winning NXT tag titles last week. And also, two, he just don't like the Rascals anymore. So that kind of gave him that. And also the other reason why Tyson and Tyreek are with Wes is to make sure that Wes becomes the NXT champion. So they have a two-way partnership with each other. So that's why this group is together here. But anyway, besides that, on TNA, you had Nick Nemeth. He came out to talk to the people. This is his first time talking to the people since he lost the title to Joe Hendry last week at Genesis. He comes out, he makes no excuses, saying Joe Hendry is the man. Ryan Nemeth, he would come out playing the younger brother card, trying to stick up for Nick, saying that Joe Hendry's a cheater. Joe Hendry is not a great champion. He's a sleaze, all this type of stuff. And Nick's just trying to calm his brother down, tell him, hey, we're not going to do that. Joe Hendry's a good guy. Don't try to do that. Don't worry about Joe. We're going to be good. Nick's going to get his way back to becoming world champion. Ryan's going to be a champion. Hell, they might do it as tag champions in TNA. And then that's whenever you see First Class come out. AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. This would lead into a tag team matchup in the main event of TNA. Important things that also happened on TNA was Eric Young, Josh Alexander, they went against Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. They are known as the Northern Armory. Those were the two guys that were with Josh Alexander for, I want to say, the last 2 months. Eric Young, he turned on Josh Alexander. And now you got Eric Young leading the Northern Armory. So he just basically took Josh's place, and now he's leading the two guys. And it made me stop and think, man, Eric Young, career-wise in TNA is real. That's something that isn't talked about enough. Because if you were to look at the career of Eric Young, he came into TNA as being a part of Team Canada. He was the scary guy. And I'm not talking about physical, intimidating type scary. I'm talking about the guy that was afraid of his own shadow, afraid of like the pyro type scary. And then you saw him going farther in his career. He comes up with a superhero type character, and then he turns into a guy that's able to lead a faction, evil guy. And then he's able to turn back into a jokey character, teaming up with ODB, doing all that foolishness stuff. and then he becomes a world champion. Then he becomes the world-class maniac, and then he leaves, go to WWE, becomes a leader of Sanity, gets fired from WWE, coming back to TNA, becomes a leader again, but this time he's leading a group called Violence by Design, and then now he's leading another group now. So again, Eric Young's career in TNA, or his career in general, is real fascinating if you just stop to look at it. So now Eric Young's once again leading a group. So there you go. You on TNA had Mustafa Ali competing against El Laredo Kid. Mustafa would win that. And backstage, you had Mustafa Ali being stopped by Santana. And Santana would just tell Mustafa that he didn't like how Mustafa didn't pay him no respect last week. And he said that we can do this in the ring right now. And Mustafa told him, no. I'm not ready for a match. As a matter of fact, I just got done with a match, but I can make a call because I'm pretty sure I know a guy that might be always ready. So next week, you'll get Mike Santana more than likely going against Matt Cardona next week on TNA. Because the always ready monikers with synonymous with Matt Cardona there. Oh yeah, in the main event, you had the Nemeths, Ryan and Nick, defeat First Class. And they did it by Nick getting Casey Navarro with, what is he called? The zigzag now over there? Danger Zone. The Danger Zone. And then you saw Ryan tag himself in, get the win, pin Casey, and the Nemeth, they get the win over First Class. And that's how TNA would end. On NXT, you had Bianca and Naomi defend the WWE Women's Tag titles over there against Metaphors, Jakara Jackson, and Lash Legend. Bianca and Naomi would retain their tag titles. They did this in Atlanta, so that was the main event. I'm not mad at it because why not have that be the main event? Why not have 4 incredible black women, 2 on the main roster? That's incredible. Bianca and Naomi going against 2 up and coming. Like, they've been getting a lot of TV time. Like, you can see I'm not going to say pressure, but you can see where they want to go with Jakara and Lash. So I see why they put them in the main event, and it wasn't bad. Jakara and Lash, you can see they're probably going to have a good 2025. They might get called up to the main roster. But the question still, for me, that roams is, where is Oro Mensah and where is Noam Dar? I think Noam Dar might be injured. Maybe I got to do some researching on that, but he hasn't been on television in some time. Same thing with Oro, too. Oro, he'll probably get some backstage stuff, but he hasn't been in the ring in some time either. So I would just like to have Metaphor all back together because they were a good, entertaining unit in NXT. But I do like that we are seeing a lot of Jakara Jackson and a lot of Lash Legend getting a lot of TV time. So I do like that as well. So again, you can see them probably getting up to the main roster this year. I can see them being a call up. If not called up, probably get some gold this year. Whether it be Lash winning the women's title or the North American title, something's going to happen with Metaphor, with especially the Meta Girls winning championship gold this year for them. Also on NXT, we would have Obafemi on the Grayson Waller effect with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Usually, you know what the deal is. There's going to be some drama on there. There's going to be some disarray. Obafemi, he wasn't trying to hear Austin Theory and Grayson Waller tried to put him down. Obafemi would easily put those two down, saying that he has accomplished more in NXT than those two guys have done in their career in NXT. They tried to big league him by talking about how they have been to WrestleMania, won WWE Tag Title Gold up there. Obafemi had to shut that down. You guys said you guys are champions, but I don't see gold on your shoulders right now. As a matter of fact, I'm the only guy with gold in the ring. So again, Obafemi was basically just talking his talk and proving why he is the ruler of NXT and how he's going to be a big major player down the line, especially when he hits the main roster. He even will throw out the challenge for Vengeance Day, put up his NXT championship. Ava will come out and Ava will tell Oba that even though Oba is a champion, he doesn't make the matches. She does. Trick Williams will come out. Trick would tell Ava that championship is his and she knows it. He will get in the ring. You see Trick and Oba have a face down with one another. Not Ace Austin. God, why do I say that so much? Austin Theory will try to attack Trick Williams, but Trick would get the jump on Theory, attack him. Then he would attack Grayson and then throw him out of the ring. And then when Trick turned around to get at Oba would hit him with the Fall from Grace powerbomb and leave Trick laying. It was confirmed later in the night by Ava that Obafemi will be defending his NXT championship at Vengeance Day in a triple threat match against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Trick Williams, he isn't feeling it. He will come up to Ava later and say that he doesn't like that Ava gave Waller and Theory NXT championship match, saying they haven't earned it. Ava says, well, you can prove it. Next week, it'll be Oba and Trick teaming up against A-Town Down Under. So, you have that there. Also, another match that was made for Vengeance Day. You have another triple threat match of Bayley going against Julia, going against Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship. That match was also announced. Another match that was announced for Vengeance Day is Fallon Henley defending her NXT Women's Championship against Stephanie Vacour. Because Fallon, she defeated Shotzi. Shotzi got a win on Fallon a couple weeks ago. So that's how she earned this championship matchup on this episode's edition of NXT. And Fallon would defeat Shotzi there. Is there anything else on NXT that happened this week as well? Or at least of importance? I don't think so. I think that was everything that happened on NXT. NXT was cool. It was fine as well. But NXT, again, is another promotion or at least another wrestling show that shows you that they like to keep their championships and stories on point, and they like to keep them constantly in people's minds. Oh yeah, we had Ethan Page going against Cedric Alexander. Ethan Page would defeat Cedric. And then you see Javon Evans come out because Cedric was down and Ethan was going to try to beat up on Cedric some more. Javon, he will come out, dive over the ropes, start attacking Ethan Page, and Ethan and Javon, they're more than likely going to have some type of, I would say, a street fight or something probably at Vengeance Day. Some type of hardcore match, because that has happened between those two guys. So expect that probably at Vengeance Day. It was not announced, but do expect that. With that said, that is your TNA and NXT wrestling highlights of the week. And now we move over to WWE, more specifically the main roster. So let's start with what happened last week on Saturday night's main event. We had Jey Uso going against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Everyone was in the corner of Jey Uso, but everyone did know that Jey Uso wasn't going to win. I mean, they gave you some false hope spots here and there where it seemed like Jey was actually going to win the World Heavyweight Championship, but Gunther would end up retaining his World Championship. Sheamus and Braun Breaker, they had their match for the Intercontinental Championship. Braun Breaker would retain said Intercontinental Championship. Rhea Ripley, same thing with her, retained her Women's World Championship against Nia Jax. And you had I'll say a monstrous performance from Jacob Fatu going against Braun Strowman. It was 50-50. Braun did handle himself with Jacob Fatu at Saturday night's main event. But, in that match, it was all about making Jacob Fatu a dangerous force since him and Tama aren't under the leash of Solo Sikoa. So you saw Jacob Fatu brutalize Braun Strowman towards the end of the match, constantly ramming his hip into the neck head area of Braun on the third bottom turnbuckle. The referee would try to tell Jacob that's kind of enough. He needs to just pin Braun to get it over with, but Jacob would throw the referee off of him and just constantly ram his hip constantly into Braun. So that's when the ref would call for the bell. Jacob would hit multiple moonsaults onto Braun and just leave Braun a bloody mouth mess. So again, that was Jacob Fatu's basically star-making performance of he's a monster now. So that was Saturday night's main event. Now let's move over to Raw and SmackDown, because this was the go-home shows for both Raw and SmackDown. Raw, we had the World Tag Team titles being defended, where the War Raiders defended their tag titles against the Judgment Days, JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. The War Raiders would retain their World Tag Team Championships. However, JD McDonough is the true star of that match, because in that match, he did perform a moonsault to the outside of the ring. And on that moonsault, he would hit his neck head area on the commentary table. And when he hit his head on the commentary table, it made like a sick, nasty thud. It looked sick. And also, Michael Cole on commentary, he even made mention like, yo, we need someone to come down here to check on JD, because you could tell that was not a good landing that happened for JD. But JD would power through it. He would finish the match. He would tweet and let everyone know that he is well. He does have a cracked ribs and a punctured lung, but in due time, he'll be fine. He'll be off television for some time, a couple months. So rest up, JD. Monday Night Raw, you also had what? I can't really say anything else of matches wise, because it was more moments. You had CM Punk backstage. He got confronted by Sami Zayn because of what Punk said last week about him winning the Rumble, and how he was listing a couple guys that weren't on his level, and he had Sami not being on his level. Sami would come up to Punk to get at him about what he said last week and say, you know what? You're right. What you said last week was completely true. I'm not on your level. I'm not upset by that, because I actually main evented a WrestleMania. And you just saw Sami just kind of get that nice little jab at Punk by doing this and walking away. And Punk just stood there, and then he just walked. So you kind of could tell that ate at Punk right there. Sami would get confronted by Seth Rollins. Seth will look at Sami. Sami would apologize to Seth multiple times about accidentally hitting him with a haluva kick last week when he was trying to hit Drew McIntyre with it. Seth will tell him, listen, I hear what you're saying, but you've kind of been acting differently because you've been like entangled back in with the bloodline. And Sami was still just kind of cut Seth off, and again, apologize to him about the haluva kick and tell him that isn't me. You know, I didn't mean to do that on purpose. Come on, we got to still be good. We're still good. And Seth will tell him, yeah, we're still good. But if that happens to me again, then we're going to have problems. And Sami would tell him, hey, it's not going to happen again. You got my word on that. So they would dap up, and that'll be it. Main event of the show would be Sami versus Drew McIntyre. But before I get to that, Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman shows up on Monday Night Raw, and he unveils the cover for WWE 2K25, and it's Roman Reigns being the cover star. Now, Roman Reigns was supposed to be there. I know I'm not tripping on this. Roman was supposed to be there because after he won his match against Solo Sikoa on the debut episode of Raw on Netflix, he mentioned to Paul about being there, on the 27th. And it was supposed to be the whole coronation of Roman getting back his Ulafala. That was supposed to happen. If you don't remember it, go back to the debut episode of Raw on Netflix, and Paul talked about having a whole big celebration and all that, and Roman says schedule it on January 27th. So Roman was supposed to be there, but he's not there. So, okay, cool. Paul's there, does the whole unveiling, talks up Roman Reigns and all that type of stuff, how Roman's going to go into the Royal Rumble and toss over all these many people to win back his World Heavyweight, the WWE Championship. Out walks Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre would tell Paul, I'm not here to fight you. I'm just here to talk to you. And Drew would say that he needs Paul to thank him, because Drew McIntyre accidentally created the bloodline and created the mess that everyone is dealing with right now. Because he goes back to when he defeated Brock Lesnar in the 2020 not Royal Rumble, but WrestleMania, because Drew won the 2020 Royal Rumble. So we have that Mania. He beats Brock Lesnar. And what happens by beating Brock, Paul Heyman is sent away. We didn't see Paul Heyman for many months. And the next time you see him, he's with Roman Reigns. And Paul, by Drew's standpoint, has been the guy to kind of bring this version of Roman Reigns out of him to make him reach his full potential. And voila, we got the bloodline from that. So again, Drew McIntyre is the catalyst for everything that's happening right now in the WWE for the last 5 years because of the bloodline. And he wants Paul to basically thank him for that. Paul would thank him, but say, you're kind of in my space right now. And Drew would say, okay, but I need you to bring a message to your boy. Tell him I'm going to be gunning for him, and I'm going to throw him out of the ring and eliminate his dreams of going to WrestleMania main eventing. And Paul would say, sure, I'll bring it back to Roman. And he's just so smiley by doing it. But Paul will get stopped by Drew, and Drew will grab him by the collar and say, no, it's not for Roman. I'm talking about your other boy, CM Punk. And then that's whenever you see Paul kind of like shift from the confidence to the, oh my God. And he has to get out of the ring now because now Drew McIntyre has his match with Sami Zayn. Drew McIntyre has his match with Sami, and Drew would beat Sami Zayn. After the match was over, Drew would continue to attack Sami until Cody would come out. Cody would run down to the ring. Now you got Cody beating up on Drew McIntyre, and then Kevin Owens would pop, and Kevin Owens is beating up on Cody in the corner, and then you see Sami Zayn just happened to run and hit Cody with a haluva kick. Now, with this happening, this is now the second time in the second week of Sami hitting a friend of his with a haluva kick. Last week on Raw, Kevin Owens told Sami that he needs him to help win the WWE title at the Royal Rumble. And by doing this, Kevin Owens would help Sami win the Royal Rumble match so they can main event WrestleMania against one another for the WWE title. So at this moment, you see Cody Rhodes down. Has his head on the bottom turnbuckle, not facing Kevin or Sami. You see Sami just looking perplexed about what just happened, and Kevin Owens stands right beside Sami, and he has a little smile on his face, and he taps Sami on the shoulder like, thank you, buddy, and he just leaves the ring. So when you have this, you see now Cody's down on the mat. You see Kevin Owens walking to the back. Sami's still looking dejected. We would go to commercial and we get to our last segment of the show. You got Cody standing in the middle of the ring. He's talking to his hometown of Atlanta. He's looking dejected. He's looking and sounding defeated because he is exhausted. He hasn't been the face that's been running WWE since Mania. And who would walk out? CM Punk. CM Punk would come out, and CM Punk would start talking to Cody as a friend. He's asking Cody, is he all right? He's asking Cody, has he been taking care of himself lately? He sees the strain that Cody's been under, and Cody would just cut Punk off.
Let's just cut through it. Last year before the Royal Rumble, we stood in the ring just like we're standing now, and you had a prediction that had a lot of truth to it. So tell me, friend, tell me, what's next for me?
Okay, I'll tell you what's next for you. In the short term, if you make it past Kevin Owens, one of the toughest SOBs in that locker room, a little bit deranged, but somebody who used to be your friend, so you're going to be too emotional. If you make it past him, well, then there's the next show. There's Raw. And then there's SmackDown, and we're on Netflix, and it's bigger than ever. You're the poster boy. This is what you asked for. And no matter how thin your spread, and no matter how early the mornings are, and no matter how late the nights get, you sacrifice. That's what's in store for you. Less time at home with your daughter, less time at home with your wife. Empty nights, ironically, in front of sold-out stadiums chanting your name, because that means something to guys like me and you. Look, all these little kids out here wearing your merchandise. And when you're crisscrossing the country in your bus, draped in the red and the white and the blue, somebody is going to be busting their ass chasing you. Somebody is going to be getting into the best shape of their life. Somebody is going to win the Royal Rumble, and they're going to see you in the main event of WrestleMania. And while you're on the way down, they're on the way up, and they're going to take that belt from you. And that's the good news, Cody.
Oh, that's the good news.
Yeah.
That's the good news. Please, tell me the bad news.
The bad news is that somebody is me. Unlike all these other people, your friends stabbing you in the back, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble, and I'll see you in the main event of WrestleMania. And because I'm your one true friend, I'm going to stab you in the front.
I respect you telling me that, for sure. Allow me to share something with you. When I first came into the whole wrestling ecosphere, when I first showed up, 4400 Shepherdsville Road at OVW, I met you, right? We were the only ones wanting to learn arm drags and head scissors from Greg Gagne. You were the man, chick magnet, CM Punk. Everybody wanted to be you. We were chasing you. And then you got called up, the big call up, cashed in, became world heavyweight champion, and I followed soon after on the roster with you, and I was chasing you. And then there's a whole 10-year period, a 10-year period where you sat at home, you sat on your couch, we were in this ring, some of your peers in that locker room, and they were chanting your name. You were still the man, and we were chasing you. But that dynamic has shifted because your prediction last year, one thing you certainly were wrong about. Our dynamic, you and I, this relationship, it's completely changed. And you know why? I'm not chasing you. You're chasing me. And friend, I want you to know, I hope you win the Royal Rumble. I do. I hope it's you. Because I want you to catch up. I want you to catch up. I want you to win the Royal Rumble, and I hope it's you. Because I want to see the look on your face when you find out that the best in the world isn't the best in the world anymore.
Now, as you heard from Cody and Punk, this seems where they're going with this in the Royal Rumble. It seems that we're building towards a particular or a potential Cody and Punk matchup. You heard what Cody said to Punk, how Punk kind of foreshadowed what happened last year. And for people that don't remember, last year we had a face-off between Cody and Punk, the exact same way that we had here, the legit go-home show of Raw. And last year you had Punk literally giving a legit foreshadowing of what basically happened, saying that you think you have it all wrapped up in your hands, you think you're going to win the Rumble, you think you're going to main event WrestleMania, and it's all going to be grand, an easy road. But it's not going to be an easy road for you. There's going to be a bigger star coming into your way and taking up everything that you worked hard for. And last year, Punk was supposed to be that guy. Punk was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to be, quote unquote, taking the moment away from Cody and all that. But Punk getting injured, that kind of didn't happen, and it ended up being The Rock. So they ended up pivoting. This year, as you just heard from Punk here, telling Cody, hey, if you happen to make it past Kevin Owens, there's going to be someone waiting for you because you're going to be coming down off that mountaintop, and it's just going to happen to be me. And I'm going to stab you in your front because I'm your friend, basically saying, I'm going to tell you point blank to your face, I'm going to be the guy taking the title off of you. And you heard Cody's response. Cody told Punk point blank, hey, listen, for these many years, the whole locker room, including myself, has been chasing you when you were here, chasing you when you were gone for the last 10 years. And I just want to pause on that. That was the most startling thing that people got to remember. When Punk left, I don't think people really understand the grip that Punk had on the crowd. When Punk left, whenever they were in Chicago, Punk's name would get chanted, and this would be going on for 7 years until Punk debuted in AEW, but then there was those 3 years that he was gone away from that, but even then they would still chant Punk's name, even in the WWE crowd on Chicago. So 10 years still, okay, fine, in the Chicago area. And the people would constantly chant Punk's name, whether you're in Chicago or you're in different areas. If a match sucked, they would just taunt the fans. Fans would taunt the wrestlers by chanting CM Punk's name. If they wanted something to happen and they wouldn't get it, they'll chant CM Punk's name. Punk, I feel, and I think I'm right on this, is the only wrestler in the history of professional wrestling that was able to make you chant his name with him not being there for a long allotted amount of time. And when Cody said that, it just made me go back to those times when you watched the Raws and you could see the wrestlers just being irritated by hearing Punk's name because they were putting on a show and they were trying their damnedest to entertain everyone. But the only thing that they wanted was CM Punk, and they didn't get it for those last years. So when Cody mentioned that, that really struck a nerve. And I guarantee you, it struck a nerve for a lot of people in the back. So that's real. And now Cody was able to flip it and say, hey, I'm at the mountaintop now. I'm no longer chasing you. You're chasing me now. And you heard him finish it. I want you to win. I hope you win the Rumble so I can face you at WrestleMania and I can basically shatter your dreams to let you know you're no longer at the mountaintop. You're no longer the best in the world. And Cody Rhodes is. So you got that right there. That happened on Monday Night Raw. Now on SmackDown, we had a different confrontation. Kevin Owens, he had a interview with Joe Tessitore, but Kevin Owens just completely blew by Joe Tessitore, take down his Winged Eagle championship off the belt holder, and outwalk CM Punk. Now, this has been building for a year, because when Punk got himself back into the WWE and he first popped up on SmackDown, he had a backstage segment when he was looking for, I believe, Nick Aldis' office, and you ask a couple members, and you see him look at Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens look at him. And those two have some past history from their time on Independence. And that was a moment there. And then there was a moment when last year Kevin Owens was walking around, I believe, with a Detroit Tigers type of championship replica belt. And he saw a stack of CM Punk t-shirts on a table, and he just pushed that off the table. So again, that adds on to that. And this is what internet fans, the people that really dig deep into this, like myself, have been waiting to see a potential CM Punk Kevin Owens just either feud or in-ring promo, and we finally got it here on SmackDown. And Punk would tell Kevin, hey, I apologize for coming out here and interrupting you, but you said my name and it felt like I needed to come out here. And Punk will tell Kevin that, hey, you're right. I have, and everybody else has, been kind of overlooking you. We've just constantly been saying we're going to win the Rumble, go out to the world, win the WWE Championship at the main event, at WrestleMania, all that good stuff, not including you. So Punk would say that to KO, and Punk would just tell Kevin, if you win, you got to remember, because you got to face off against a pissed off Cody, then we could probably get this done at Mania. And then Kevin Owens would tell Punk, listen, I don't like you. As a matter of fact, there's 29 other guys in that Rumble match that I like more than you. And he would be snarky by saying that. And then you get Kevin Owens throwing in the jab just like Sami Zayn did on Monday Night Raw, saying that it fills Kevin Owens' heart with joy knowing that CM Punk has never main evented a WrestleMania, and that Kevin Owens has been a multiple time main eventer of WrestleMania, and that he hopes that Punk doesn't win the Rumble and doesn't get his dream to main event WrestleMania. Punk would allow Kevin to walk out of the ring, walk onto the apron, but stop him there and say, hey, listen, me and you can get to this right now, but before that, stop me when I'm wrong. I haven't lost 5 championship matches at the Royal Rumble. I never lost to Logan Paul. And whenever he said that, you got the crowd hitting the ooh. And you can even see on Kevin Owens' face that kind of got him a little bit. And that's funny, again, as a nerd of wrestling, you got to think from the independent guys, from the Kevin Owens, Sammy, and Punk, all those type of guys that worked their asses off to get to WWE after being on the indies for many years. And they're professionals, but just to be tasked with a match and you have to lose to Logan Paul, that has to at least sting a little bit on the inside of them. They probably don't care because they're happy to be in WWE and they're in there for the money on this aspect alone. But I know just on the way of their mindsets of being professional wrestlers, I know it stings them just a little to know that they had to, if they're tasked with that, to lose to Logan, it at least gets them a little bit. And you can saw that on Kevin Owens there. So when Punk said that, we now looks like we're about to get to a fight. Kevin Owens, he would drop off the apron and just walk directly to the back. So it felt like WWE was testing the waters there to see where we're going to get a Kevin Owens and CM Punk match at WrestleMania. Again, there's a lot of different ways that the Rumble could easily go, but those two things really set it off. With Raw, with it ending with Punk and Cody, and with SmackDown is starting with Punk and Kevin Owens, it seems to me that WWE is really sending out the signal, hey, Punk is winning the Rumble this year. That's happening. We gave it to Cody last year so he could finish his story. But remember, Punk was the last guy that Cody went against too in the Rumble. And it seems that now we're going to give Punk the win so he can get his opportunity that he's been chomping at the bits for many years. That was his life goal, to main event of WrestleMania. It seems that WWE is really putting it out there to fillers saying, hey, Punk's going to win this. And we're testing the waters to see, do you want to see Punk versus Cody at Mania? Or do you want to see Punk and Kevin Owens at Mania? Because both matches will be great, and both stories leading up to their matches at Mania will be great as well. So it felt that way on the go-home show of this week's Raws and SmackDowns. But those were like the big things to come away from Raw and SmackDown. I mean, on Raw, you had Seth Rollins talking about how he's going to win the Rumble and how he's going to be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, which sent Gunther out, didn't send Logan Paul out. So you got something there. SmackDown, it showed again Jacob Fatu, because they're putting a lot of eggs into the basket of Jacob Fatu being the destroyer. He comes out there and he faces off with Damian Priest, and it ends up getting into a 2-on-1 situation of Priest going against Tama and Jacob until LA Knight comes out, which makes it to a tag team main event where LA Knight and Damian Priest would get the win, with Priest pinning Tama Tonga. But Jacob Fatu again would just do damage to Priest and lay him out to end SmackDown with Jacob standing on top. So, I mean, that's where SmackDown basically, that was right there. I mean, you had the 8-man tag of Los Garza teaming up with Motor City Machine Guns going against DIY and Pretty Deadly. Both Los Garza would walk away from Motor City Machine Guns in this matchup. And then you would have DIY accidentally hit Pretty Deadly. Tommaso Ciampa, to be precise, hit not Elton Prince, but Kit Wilson in the face with a big boot. And that would send Elton Prince to look down at Kit, and you would see Chris Sabin get Tommaso in a roll-up. So that set up, again, the building blocks for their match at Royal Rumble, which is a 2 out of 3 falls match between the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY. But SmackDown and Raw, both cool, but I basically just listed out the big hitters that was made mention or that you should have saw on Raw and SmackDown. All right. So with that being said, let's get on to my predictions for the Royal Rumble for the 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWE tag titles, DIY going against the Motor City Machine Guns. First and foremost, if you don't know how this match is going to go, just know it's going to absolutely slap. This is going to be one of the match of the year contenders, straight up. I know it because DIY, they always put on bangers in tag team matches. Motor City Machine Guns the same way. And I think they're going to get a plethora of time, probably 25, 30 minutes. If they get lesser than that, I'm going to be extremely shocked. But in the end, I see DIY retaining the tag titles here. They won it in a cheap fashion way against one of the shitty machine guns. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think DIY is going to probably get the first fall. One of the shitty machine guns is going to have to fight up to get the second fall. And then that third fall is going to be DIY doing something cheap to retain their WWE tag team titles. But that tag match is going to absolutely slap off top. The women's Royal Rumble matchup, I say this. Oh, and if you're new to this, predictions for the Royal Rumble, because I do this every year since I've done this. I like to have two winners, two for women and two for the men. One is always my heart picked decision, and one is always my storyline logic. The heart is what the heart wants. Who's I want to win the actual matchup. And then secondly, obviously storyline wise who should win this? For the women's Royal Rumble, my heart wants Bianca Belair to win because I want Bianca to face off against Rhea Ripley. I want that match to happen because I don't think there's anybody technically that Rhea could actually have a match with, because I don't think you want to see Rhea and Charlotte again, even though they could do it, but I don't think people want that. If you had Io win, do you want to see Io and Rhea compared to Bianca and Rhea? I just don't know about that. And all the other women on the roster like that, I just don't see anyone truly matching up to Rhea except for Bianca Belair. And personally, I don't want to see Bianca go against Tiffany right now. No. So my heart picks Bianca, but storyline wise, I hate to do this. God knows I do. The way it's seeing storyline wise, they might go with Charlotte Flair. Because Charlotte Flair hasn't been back on television. They've been building her back and saying that she's going to come back at the Royal Rumble. They showed a highlight of her getting injured in 2023 and how she's been out for the whole entire year, 2024. I can see her coming back here and winning the Rumble, but I hate that. I truly do, because Charlotte Flair will be the first woman two-time Royal Rumble winner. I don't think it should be her. She already has like the most reigns of a women's champion in WWE. She don't need this to add on to the accolades. We get it. You're great. We get it. There's nothing wrong with being great, but damn it, there's a difference where I can pinpoint how WWE, at least at the top for what it seems, is really benefiting you for being Ric Flair's daughter. And with Triple H, by the way, congrats to Triple H to being a Hall of Famer, this time just by himself. Last time he got inducted into the Hall of Fame was with DX, but this time he's going to the Hall of Fame by himself. So congrats to him for that. But since Triple H is running the company creatively wise, Triple H has never shied away from being a fan of Ric Flair, who is the father of Charlotte. And if you've seen Charlotte's progression, literally from NXT all the way up to the main roster, they handed things to her on a platter. And I don't think Charlotte should ever turn it down, because obviously if you're that damn good and the company puts the ball in your hand, I don't care how many times they give it to you, you run with it. And Charlotte has done it. But, I did a little bit of digging, and you could just see when her feud with Sasha, they constantly just gave the ball back to Charlotte at these pay-per-views and never let Sasha run with it fully. I hated it then, and I hated it now when I look back at it. And I don't need for Charlotte to win the Rumble here, and then next thing you know, she goes against Tiffany or Rhea. We can have Charlotte win the Elimination Chamber if you want to do that. Let her do that. But the Rumble, damn it, no. Let it be Bianca. So that's my heart. I'm going with my heart here. Bianca's number one. Let her win that. And let her do what you got to do. Cody Kevin Owens ladder match for the WWE Championship. I'm going to say, Cody, I need to see Kevin Owens hit rock bottom. And plus, I would like to see Randy Orton come in here and screw Kevin Owens, because Randy Orton has not been back since he been pile driven by Kevin a good couple months ago. And plus, you got the inclusion of whether Sami Zayn will interfere or not. I would like for Sami Zayn not to interfere, because then we can see Kevin Owens kind of get Sami at the Men's Royal Rumble, whether he interrupts it or just straight up beats Sami Zayn to a pulp and just takes his spot in the Rumble. One of those two things could happen there. But I need Cody to win against Kevin, because I don't need to see Cody lose this matchup here. And then now we got to find a janky back way for Cody to pick up the win to get his WWE Championship back before Mania. No, just have him hold the title until Mania, and then you do what you do about that. Whether he retains or loses at Mania, you made the decision there, but let him be the driving force going into Mania holding that WWE Championship. So, Cody retains his WWE Championship, and Kevin Owens needs to lose by Sami not interfering, and also Randy Orton coming back and screwing Kevin. That's what should happen there. Men's Royal Rumble. Again, still, my heart picks and my storyline pick, and both of them align here, is going to be CM Punk. If it's not CM Punk, I don't know what we're doing here. I really don't. We haven't seen Roman Reigns since the Netflix special, and we Netflix debut on Raw, and we haven't seen John Cena since the Netflix Raw debut. What are we doing here? Because those are only two other guys that you would legitimately give that opportunity to. So, realistically, you only get three big picks. You get Cena, Roman, John. John isn't going to do that, because John talked about in the press conference after the night after Raw happened on Netflix, how he doesn't want to take the opportunities away from the guys that have been here busting their humps, because he knows how it was to be in their spots. And I think John's serious when he says that. And this will be his first match in a long time, or since the tag match that he had against Roman and Sammy. Either that or his match with Solo Sikoa. One of the two. But it's been some time since John's been in the match. So for him to pop back up here and just win that, I don't see John just doing that. I don't. And with Roman Reigns, I think people would be like, we're gonna get Roman and Cody again. You'll be teetering that line right there. Because I'm not certain if people want to see Roman and Cody main event WrestleMania again, and this will be the third time in a row that they do it. I'm not certain if the fans want that. I mean, from a storyline wise, you can build it to a creative way to get us there, to make it happen at Mania, but I don't know if the fans want to do it or not, or the fans want to see it. I don't know. Me, I'll sit here and I'll watch it and I'll be like, all right, cool. We're getting there again. But like, what about CM Punk? Do you want to see CM Punk wrestle for the World Heavyweight Championship? Me, not really. I would like to see him wrestle for the WWE title, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But yeah, that's just the way I'm thinking here. And I still would like them to go with my thought process for people that didn't listen to the thought process a couple of weeks ago. My thought process on this is this way. You get to kill mad many birds with one stone here. You get the last 6 people in the ring. It'll be Punk, Drew McIntyre, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Carmelo Hayes. I put Carmelo Hayes there for a couple of reasons, and let me break it down to you. Carmelo Hayes is a young guy that popped up on the main roster last year after WrestleMania happened with the draft. Since he's been on the main roster, he's had little moments, but he needs something to really shoot him up into the light of which he was down there in NXT. And with him being in the final 6, that will do it. And then with him basically being the guy to eliminate John Cena, being the guy to take that main event spot away from John Dreams, at least Wise, that will be great for Carmelo to have that on his resume card. So that's the reason why I have Carmelo in this final 6 spot. So you get these 6. You get Drew and Seth trying to eliminate Punk and Roman. Drew and Seth, again, being too consumed with their anger, they get into each other's faces. Punk and Roman, they just care about winning, and they know how to win. They toss out Drew and Seth. Then you're down to Cena, Carmelo, Punk, and Roman. As I said, Carmelo, he throws out Cena. That'll be the biggest oh my god moment there. A young guy, brash guy throwing out Cena. What? But again, Carmelo will use that into the future to basically have that on his resume. Then you get down to Roman, Punk, and Carmelo. It doesn't matter. Punk or Roman, doesn't matter. Throw Carmelo out. Then you're down to Punk and Roman. You get Punk, get in the microphone, telling Paul, it's time for the favor. Tell Roman to eliminate himself. Tell him to get out of the ring. And by doing that, you have the fans turning on Punk, or you allow the fans to decide, do they turn on Punk? Do they cheer at this moment, or do they boo him at this moment? And you have Paul looking dejected, looking at Punk saying, come on, anything but this. And Punk say, you know me. You know I'm a man about my favors. And you said anything. And this is what I'm calling for. So Paul tries to tell Roman, you got to eliminate yourself. And Roman looks at Paul, are you serious? And then you have Roman not give in. And I think the fans will eat that up because it's dramatic and anticlimactic. Will Roman do it? Will he not? And I think you have Roman not do it. The fans will eat it up. Punk will be severely pissed off. And he will just start being irate. He'll bash Roman in the head with the microphone. You get a nice competitive match between him and Roman. And by hook or by crook, Punk somehow eliminates Roman and Punk wins. But he will always have that stain to say that you tried to have Roman eliminate himself. And that could basically still have Paul still in the pocket of Punk, because Punk can say, my favor was never claimed because he didn't do it. So Paul, you owe me that. So Punk can ultimately still become the ultimate scumbag that people have been proclaiming since Punk has been back in the WWE that he truly is. So again, there's a lot of ways you could easily make Punk a bad guy, because I think that's a way that we could go with Punk going into the main event of WrestleMania. Or we can still have him be the good guy and you have him and Roman do a 1-2 matchup and then throw him out. There's a way you do it. But ultimately, in the end, Punk wins the Royal Rumble and he goes off to main event WrestleMania. Because if he doesn't, the only way we get to that is if he wins the Elimination Chamber. And I don't think Punk's body can handle the Elimination Chamber. So the Royal Rumble, to me, I feel is the safest route for him to go. So have him win the Rumble and call it a day. So with that being said, this has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. I want to thank you all for listening to today's episode. And also I want to let everyone know that I will be doing a review of the Royal Rumble tomorrow. Tomorrow will be uploaded along with my Sunday episode where I talk about everything that happened in the news this week. So please be on the lookout for both of those episodes tomorrow, okay? Now, with that being said, I love you all. Have a great Saturday. Please be safe and watch the Rumble tonight. It is on Peacock. It starts at 6 o'clock. And this is not a sponsor. I'm not being paid for this. I just am a fan of professional wrestling and I want everyone to enjoy professional wrestling, okay? Now, again, please be safe, everyone. Have a blessed day. You'll hear from me tomorrow or whenever you do tune in back into this broadcast. Bye-bye now.